Why are orangutans orange, and why do some ducks stand still when it starts to rain? I'm not here to answer those questions. I'm here to tell you some good news you likely haven't heard about, but I will find an answer to those things at some point during this video. If you're new here, I'm Sam and I make videos highlighting good news and solutions to some of the world's biggest problems. And thank you for clicking on this video, and I hope I can do your click justice. For everyone who's returning back, thank you so much for all of your lovely comments on the last video and for clicking that like button to help spread the good. It really helps in amplifying the positive progress happening in the world. And you never know who's out there who may need to hear some reasons to be hopeful. So let's get into it. Here's some good news in September that you might have missed. Scientists at Oxford University have developed super thin solar panels made of ink, which can be printed onto phones, backpacks, or even clothes to produce cheap, free electricity on the go. This new way of producing solar energy is actually more energy efficient than traditional solar panels, converting up to 27% of the sun's energy into electricity, compared to the current 22%. But researchers think it might be possible to get as high as 45% very soon by building on this new technology. This is because these panels are made using perovskite, which is incredibly efficient at converting sunlight into electricity, as it can produce electricity from all of the sun's energy, including invisible infrared and UV, which traditional solar panels can't make use of. A few months ago, I actually met Olga Malinkovich from Poland, who runs Sour Technologies, who creates similar solar cells that can actually be printed from an inkjet printer. And she gave me a little sample on here. And if you can see this little light on here, that's been generated from this solar cell, and there's not even natural light in this room. It's literally like magic. For our next story, let's head to Peru. 20 indigenous groups from the Peruvian Amazon managed to secure land rights to over 75,000 acres. That's 3 times as big as Manhattan. The titles were delivered as part of a ceremony in the Hutoto Mori indigenous community of Centro Arenal, where indigenous leaders had travelled by river to receive their title in person, along with locals and state officials. Beyond their inherited rights to the land, these indigenous groups have a hugely beneficial impact on nature and biodiversity. They also significantly reduce illegal logging, one of the greatest threats to the Amazon, with one study finding that granting indigenous people legal ownership of their own land resulted in a 66% reduction in forest cover loss. A study from earlier this year said that by just protecting 1.2% of our land, we could save thousands of endangered species. So each bit of protection can make a huge difference. And protecting our green spaces isn't just important for the planet, but important for us too, as this next story shows. A medical trial in the UK found that prescribing time in nature proved to be a more effective and cheaper alternative to more common treatments for depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues. More than 8,000 people participated in the study, making it possibly the largest of its kind. Participants were provided with structured activities, including walks in nature, tree planting, community gardening, and wild swimming. They were asked to rate their happiness from 1 to 10 before and after taking part. On average, their rating increased about 50%, from 5.3 to 7.5. The average total prescription cost came to around £500, which was covered by the National Health Service. In comparison, typical treatments such as cognitive behavioural therapy could cost twice as much, and drugs commonly used to treat these issues often have mixed results and negative side effects. How would you rate your happiness from 1 to 10 before and after spending time in nature? Drop a before and after number in the comments below. If we get more than 8,000 comments, maybe we can make this comment section even bigger than that study. Maybe. This next story is about a bird you probably didn't know existed, and it nearly didn't at one point. After 300 years of extinction from the wild, scientists have reintroduced a northern bald ibis into their natural habitat. But there's one small problem. These birds have never had to migrate in captivity, which is an essential part of their natural rhythm. To help them on their way, scientists are using ultralight aircraft to guide these ibis on their 1,700-mile journey from Austria to Spain. By flying alongside the birds, they help them find the right path to warmer climates for the winter. And this should prepare them to pass this knowledge on to their new chicks as the species begins to repopulate in the wild. And a bit of bonus similar good news, the Guam kingfisher that has been extinct in the wild for 40 years is also set to be released back into the wild too after intense conservation efforts. The last story was about migration, and this next story is about a different type of migration, more like migrating champagne from France to New York. The largest wind-powered cargo ship just made its first transatlantic crossing from France to New York, delivering champagne, wine and cognac in a far more sustainable way. This modern sailing ship uses huge carbon fibre masts which allow huge sails for speedy crossings, and advanced navigation with satellite data allows it to catch the strongest winds and optimise its route. Transoceanic wind transport, the designers of the ship, have said that thanks to modern advancements, the ship can travel by wind 95% of the time, making huge reductions in fossil fuels. While these ships aren't as large as huge modern container ships, they can be sailed with a much smaller crew, which keeps costs down. So those stories were about some very long journeys, but do you know what isn't a long journey? The distance between here and that like and subscribe button down below. So if you've made it this far, maybe you could take a mini scroll down there and hit subscribe and like. That would be absolutely awesome. And as that electric cargo ship has moored us up in New York, let's hear about some good news here. New York got some good news as a major milestone was hit in restoring their oyster reefs. New York Harbour was once home to 220,000 acres of oyster reefs, which acted as a natural defence against storm damage by softening the blow of large waves, reducing flooding and preventing erosion. Oysters are also great at cleaning water too, and one adult oyster can filter about 50 gallons of water a day. But due to coastal developments, pollution and over-harvesting, the vast majority of these reefs were destroyed. But now the Billion Oyster Project are on a mission to restore New York's oyster reefs with the goal of restoring 1 billion oysters to New York Harbour by 2035. And their latest project in Jamaica Bay will see around 20 million oysters help build a new reef, while also providing hands-on STEM learning opportunities for hundreds of New York City public school students too. I visited the Billion Oyster Project a couple of years ago to see their awesome work firsthand, and I also met Max and Fran from Glass Half Full, who you should definitely check out. And if you're in the area, you can volunteer to help rebuild New York's reefs too. Just check their socials or website for more details on how to get involved. Our next story takes us to New Mexico. Inmates at the Southern New Mexico Correctional Facility are helping train hard-to-adopt dogs to help them find a home. Many dogs struggle to find new homes due to behavioural issues, and most animal shelters don't have the time or resources to help retrain them. So non-profit Deming Animal Guardians launched a program that allows inmates to work with dogs to teach them basic obedience such as commands like stay and fetch, and social skills like not jumping on furniture. This bond helps inmates develop compassion, responsibility and new skills as they learn dog grooming, first aid and potty training while living with the dogs 24/7. Dogs once abandoned are now thriving, and nearly all graduates have found loving homes as a result of the inmates' dedicated efforts. You know how after music festivals there's all that mess left behind and all that waste? One band are on a mission to make music events more planet friendly. British band Massive Attack collaborated with climate scientists Ecotricity and A Greener Future to create one of the lowest carbon concerts of its kind ever. And they're hoping other musicians will take note. They put together the Super Low Carbon Live Music Roadmap for the UK live music sector, catchy name, which they used to deliver a one-day mini-festival in Bristol which combined a bunch of environmentally friendly measures. But rather than me tell you all about it, here's Dale Vince, the founder of Ecotricity, who helped bring this concept to life.
The great thing for me about the Massive Attack gig is that it didn't duck the big issues. We have to change energy, transport and food. How we power ourselves, how we travel, and what we eat. 80% of all of our carbon footprints are in there personally. It's the same for events, it's the same for companies, it's the same for whole countries. It's a great kind of general rule. And the gig did exactly that. There were no diesel generators on site. It was powered entirely by batteries from the grid fairies and from others. Fleets of electric buses brought people there. We broke the dominance of the car as a mode of transport. And no animals died on the day for food choice that we just don't have to make. So for me, it was fantastic.
This next story is about potatoes and how scraps from this are being turned into this. A team in London have developed a compostable alternative to polystyrene that's made from waste materials like potato peels and textile scraps. It's called Carbon Cell, and for every gram of it produced, the process locks up around 2.1 grams of CO2. Unlike polystyrene, which creates long-lasting plastic pollution, it's fully compostable, meaning it can enrich the soil instead of harming the planet. In case you missed it, over on my Instagram, I did a video about how farmers in the Philippines are turning coconut waste into natural insulation that could replace plastic styrofoam too. Our next story is nothing to do with potatoes, to be honest. In a record-setting auction, the UK government has awarded contracts to support over 131 new renewable energy projects, a 50% increase over the previous year. Wind power saw an especially big increase after 0 successful bids were made last year due to a mixture of poor government funding and unusually high construction costs. Tidal energy also saw a great surge, and once the projects are complete, 50% of global tidal energy production would be based in the UK. Around the world, people are developing incredible technologies to harness the power of waves, from cutting-edge floating devices to submerged turbines. So maybe now is the time for the UK to turn the tide into making wave energy a reality. We're down to the last 2 stories, and the next one is about a bit of US history that was made this month. But I'm going to pass the mic to my friend Brooke on this one, who can tell you about it way better than I could.
Hi Sam, this is Brooke Thompson. I'm here reporting from Northern California in the United States. I'm here to share my good news that we are experiencing the largest dam removal in world history. The dams this month will be completely removed from the Klamath River. This is a big deal because they were blocking salmon's passage, they were causing blue-green algae blooms, and they were creating poor water quality and hurting these fish species that my tribe really rely upon for its survival. And not only my tribe, cougars, bears, condors, eagles, they all need the salmon population to survive and thrive. And a lot of these species also bring the carcasses out into the forest, where the trees and plants get nutrients from them too. So this is not only a win for my tribe, a win for the animals, a win for California and Southern Oregon, but it should be a win for everyone, because we've been fighting for this 20 years now, and we're told it was going to be impossible. But yet, through persistence, direct action, through negotiation making, and through making connections with different groups of people, we are able to make this a reality.
Our final story is about the power of community, and on that note, I want to thank the community of people here watching this video right now. The fact that you're here watching this now means that you're someone who wants to find the good in the world and believes that the good is actually out there, even though we don't see it every day. So thank you for being part of this caring community that the world so desperately needs. And a big thank you to my Patreon community who are either side of me, who help me produce these videos. And for the cost of a bag of potatoes each month, you can help me bring these videos to life and also get credited at the end of the videos too. Just type this URL in and join the club. So here's the final story, and we'll also find out about why orangutans are orange and why some ducks potentially stand still in the rain. The Zomba Forest Reserve in Malawi has been saved from deforestation by allowing local communities, rather than the government, to manage the resources within it. In 2012, the woodland was quickly depleting as locals cut down trees, mostly to make charcoal. The natural regrowth rate of the forest was enough to support the local community's personal needs, but many people were also cutting down additional trees and selling on the charcoal for profit. In an attempt to save the forest, small sections were allocated to community groups, each able to harvest from their own area, but this meant they also had to maintain it or they'd lose the supply of charcoal. This led to an amazing forest recovery, and the locals have become experts in sustainable resource use, holding each other to account and taking only what is needed. So according to this, apparently orangutans' colouring does help them blend in, so the water in peat swamp forests where orangutans live tends to be a muddy orange, so when sunlight reflects off this water it can give the forest an orange cast, making orangutans surprisingly hard to see in dappled light. And apparently ducks stand still in the rain sometimes to avoid getting wet, which as humans seems counterintuitive, but as ducks' feathers are waterproof they actually reduce their exposure to the cold and wind. Apparently that's why anyway, but if you have a better explanation, drop it in the comments below and I'll see you the same place, same time next month. Bye!